I am Zazubaar, and I'd like to welcome you to a very special video. Joining me today for the first time on my channel, I'd like to welcome TORREYGNR1.
Hey!
And Therealmanos.
Hello.
Welcome to the channel, guys. Awesome to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
Good to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. So we're doing a very specific topic today. I don't know if any of you other listeners have been experiencing the same thing that most of us are. We're in the Bond mood. It's, you know, with the release of Skyfall and 2012 being the 50th anniversary of 007, it's just been Bond-a-palooza, basically. So everyone's been in the Bond mood. New DVD releases, Blu-ray releases. Obviously, we had a new movie. We'll be getting to that in a little bit. So plenty of Bond stuff to go around. So we're in a Bond mood. So I figured an interesting topic to discuss that I don't think anyone else on the internet has done a video on, or at least a chat anyway. We're going to be discussing the future of the Bond franchise post-Skyfall. No one has really talked about this because Bond films are usually very standalone, with the exception of Quantum of Solace. So no one really talks about like a specific direction for the sequels, because I think people just kind of assume that the production company knows what they're doing, and oftentimes that's not the case. So we're gonna give our opinions on where we think they should take the franchise after Skyfall. Thus the name Bond post Skyfall. So we're going to be discussing that, and we're going to be discussing a variety of topics within that larger heading. But before we get into that specifically, I want to kind of establish where the three of us stand on Bond personally, our generalized kind of thoughts on the series, but I want to kind of specifically name that by our favorite film, why it's our favorite film, and our favorite Bond actor. So either of you guys can start, just throw your voice out there and you can get us going here. So your favorite Bond film and your favorite Bond actor and why?
Manos, you can go first if you want.
Okay. I'll go first. Now, I'm clearly the oldest of the three here, and when I started watching Bond as a kid, it was the 70s. And guess who was Bond in the 70s? It was Roger Moore. And, you know, it's funny. I mean, I remember watching, like, I don't know, maybe 3 of these without even realizing there was any other Bonds that had come before him. You know, I wasn't even aware of Sean Connery until I was, like, maybe 8 or 9 or something like that. When HBO did this wonderful series where they were showing a new Bond film every month, and they started with Dr. No all the way up to the present day, which I think was Octopussy. And I have to say, it's, you know, it's one of those weird things where it's like, yeah, Moore was my first Bond, and, you know, I loved Moore at the time, but, you know, now that I've, you know, had the chance to compare him with the others, it's really difficult to say. You know, but of course, the obvious choice is usually Connery, but I actually kind of hate to say this because it sounds like, oh, you're just saying it because he's the new guy. Well, I really like Daniel Craig a lot, and I think he's generally been my favorite because I think since Connery, he is not so much the best performer. I think that's too easy to say. I think he seems the most comfortable as Bond. He plays it like it really is him, and he does it with such ease, and he does it almost as if he barely gives a shit what anybody thinks of him when he walks around in any of these movies. And you know, I gotta respect it because I love Brosnan's Bond as well, and I generally consider him to be one of the things that saved the Bond franchise. A lot of people forget how much it was on the ropes before he showed up, but he never seemed totally comfortable with the role. I think it's because he wanted to do things with the role that the producers weren't really ready to do. That's just my... Because every time he gives a quip, you just hear him groaning inside, like, God, do I have to fucking say this awful
Not inaccurate.
And I have to say, probably my favorite... yeah. Man, that's tough. I would have to say maybe GoldenEye. I really like GoldenEye a lot. I really like Goldfinger, and From Russia with Love. And I gotta say, for Roger Moore, I really love Octopussy.
See, that's one a lot of people were mixed on. Like, I have a friend who that's actually his least favorite. But, you know, Bond is one. This is why I wanted to establish this. Bond is one of those weird franchises where fans are not on the same side. You have very clearly defined ranks of fans who have very set opinions, and they're usually amongst the names of Bonds.
That's true.
So it's one of those weird franchises where I like to kind of establish where everyone stands on it by actor, because that's kind of where opinions fall in. Though, of course, you know, I don't like just naming, you know, having blanket statements anyway. But it's always nice to get a feel for everyone's opinion. So interesting list there, dude. So I think we're gonna jump over to Dan. So Dan, your favorite actor and film?
Interestingly enough, I wasn't introduced to Bond through the films. I grew up an avid N64 player as a kid, and my first Bond thing was the GoldenEye video game for the N64, which was hugely influential on the first-person shooter genre and was sort of like the Call of Duty at the time. So I was big into that as a kid, and I never really gave much of a thought to watching the films, actually. The first Bond film I watched was Casino Royale because I had been hearing good things about it, and I really I remembered that name as from when I was a kid, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll check it out, and I ended up really liking the film and went back and watched almost all of them on my cable service. They had like a marathon where you could go and watch them for like $1. You could rent each of the films, and I went back and watched a lot of them over like the course of a month, and I really got into the character. My first Bond and favorite Bond, Daniel Craig, not because he was my first. I do enjoy all of the performances to some degree, but I like him, as Manos was saying, because he feels like it's very easy, but it's not like smooth easy. Like he's, I don't know, he feels like a machine to me. It's easy in a different way that it was easy for Connery and Moore, and I like that about him, because that's what a real spy would be like. And that's how he is in the novels I've found, now that I've went back and started reading those, which is an interesting experience. So that's sort of why I like Daniel Craig. It's tough, because Skyfall I loved a lot, and I kind of want to say it's my favorite, but I want to let it grow on me for a little while before I say definitively it's my favorite one.
Yeah, that's why I didn't say that one, because it's the one that just came out, like, 5 days ago, practically.
Feels that way, doesn't it?
So, yeah, it definitely does. Time's flying by. I really like Goldfinger, From Russia with Love, as Manos said. Those are great films. I really enjoy On Her Majesty's Secret Service. As much as the performance there isn't as great as some of the other ones, I think the story there is more solid than some of the other ones from that era. So I really enjoy On Her Majesty's Secret Service. One of the more personal Bond films, which is what I enjoyed about Skyfall quite a bit as well. I like Casino Royale, as I said. GoldenEye's great. I like the two Dalton films quite a bit. Those are fun. Because he's a little bit more in line with Craig's take on the character. It's a little bit more of a darker take. I like that. I'm not a huge fan of the Roger Moore era, so I can't really say which films I really enjoy from that one, other than The Spy Who Loved Me. I do like that one quite a bit, but
same here.
Yeah, those are my favorite films, I'd have to say.
Yeah, I'm very much so going to fall in line with you guys. I prefer my Bond dark, always have, because my first Bond film was, my first Bond film technically was Die Another Day, unfortunately, but that was just because my uncle and my dad are both big Bond fans, and that was the new film at the time. So they hadn't seen it in theaters, so they had it on VHS and they popped it in, and I happened to sneak a peek at Halle Berry having sex with Pierce Brosnan, so of course that was an interesting childhood memory, and so that was technically my first one, but that was before I knew who James Bond was. I had no idea back then. So, but then I saw and around the time Quantum of Solace came out, I wanted to get into James Bond because I loved the trailer for Quantum of Solace. So I knew, there was a reboot for Bond, and that was Casino Royale, so I said, okay, I'm going to watch Casino Royale. Saw it, fell in love with it. And that was kind of where I started with Bond. And I think that anyone who asks where to start with Bond film-wise, I think that's the best place. It really is. It tells you everything you need to know about the character. There's a lot of references in there. There's a DB5 in there. There's plenty of martinis. We see the origin of the classic martini. So there's plenty of stuff in there that kind of introduces you to Bond. But anyway, I'm getting off on a tangent about introducing people to Bond. In terms of my favorite, though, Daniel Craig was my first. My favorite Bond, again, as Manos was saying earlier, it's kind of obvious, but just in terms of if I had to pin a face to Bond, it's Sean Connery. Just because the man defined the role. I mean, he created an icon. Not necessarily single-handedly, but he was a big part of it. Just he became the face of what a spy is supposed to look like and act like. So I think that that's really influential. But in terms of personal favorite, whenever the man is on screen, I can't take my eyes off him. The way he talks, his quips, the way he talks to people, it's just like you gotta listen. It's just like he has this power to him. And I think that that's perfect for Bond. So I think just in terms of that, he's my favorite. But in terms of because I think one thing, I know, Dan, you and I were talking about this one time off air. We were talking about how his films are not exactly the most sophisticated.
No.
And how he doesn't really give him a depth of character that other actors would, like even Lazenby did. But he is awesome, and that's why he's my favorite. In terms of going into that depth of character, Timothy Dalton, man, I love Timothy Dalton. He's definitely my favorite under Connery, just basically for the same reason, in fact, just with the depth of character laid in there. Whenever he's on screen, I can't not listen and watch him because he does things in such an interesting way. He really emphasizes the cold-hearted killer aspect of Bond that really no actor had tried to before that. I mean, you had Connery throwing women around and breaking bottles over people's heads, but it wasn't. It was more of that was the way men were expected to act back then, hero-wise. Dalton did it and gave it like a reason of he's a very, very dark character, a very tortured assassin character. So, and that's how I like my James Bond, and that's what Daniel Craig brings to the role as well, which is why he's my third favorite. But yeah, for me, it's Dalton being my favorite Bond, and my favorite film has always been From Russia with Love, just because I whenever I watch it, I just get wrapped up in the atmosphere of this whole espionage story. I think it's got one of the best Bond espionage stories in general. Also, Blofeld's first film, even though we don't know his name or his face, and he's even though it's not Donald Pleasance's voice, it is an awesome voice. So it's got respect for that. Just overall, the plot's very interesting. I love the characters. Not that they have a lot of depth, but they do have a great sets of personalities. Obviously, you got Connery as Bond, and then the one I point to is Kerem Bey, who is Bond's contact in Istanbul. I don't know why, but I love that guy. I don't know if you guys remember him, but he was the guy with the cigarette holder.
Yeah.
But I don't know why. I just love him. He kind of makes the movie for me. So whenever I watch him, I'm like, that's why I love From Russia with Love, is that guy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is pretty awesome, in fact. But yeah, for me, it's Connery and From Russia with Love. Those are my kind of two favorites. So, and in terms of my top five, it would go Honor Majesty's Secret Service being right under that. Skyfall, I kind of have I've seen that film a lot of times because I saw it illegally a few times after I saw it in theaters. So, because I was just so desperate to watch it again. So I think, for me, Skyfall is kind of set there and is safe there. Then it's License to Kill because I think that has the best characterization for Bond in that kind of era. And then it's Casino Royale. So it's kind of my top five. Yeah, so guys, that's kind of where we stand on Bond. So now that we have that well established, I don't know, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we all kind of sit in the park of we like our Bond a little dark.
Yeah, I would agree to that.
I'd say so.
Yeah. So we like our Bond a little dark. We like our Bond to have a little bit of a torturous backstory, and a little bit of a darker personality with the suaveness and all the typical Bond traits being kind of a cover for that. It's kind of the sense I'm getting. So with that said, I want to talk about Skyfall specifically for a bit. Now, this is not going to be a Skyfall unlimited chat review, but I want to talk about Skyfall briefly just because it's the last film, and I think it's the most successful Bond film up until this point. So I want to talk about it because obviously we're going to be talking about the franchise after that, so I think it would be kind of important to talk about where it stands now with its last film. So, since Manos, you started last time, Dan, what's kind of your overall feelings on Skyfall, mainly what it got right that you think made it so successful?
I think it was great because it had a reverence for the past of the Bond films and was willing to embrace the tropes, but in a way that were important to the story. I thought that was the most important thing that it did. It sort of showed that, you know, all these goofy little things that we have in the Bond history, let's not shy away from them, and let's actually do them, but in an intelligent way. The film was extremely well put together in that regard, I think, and it made a story that was very personal for Bond as a character. You basically saw his surrogate mother get killed at the end of the movie. So, I mean, that's not something that we've ever seen before. We got to see, you know, where he grew up and all that sort of thing. Not that they could ever do that again in a film now that we've got it. But I think a story that's central to the character and about the larger espionage things for the next movie would be great. If we get a more traditional espionage story, but that's just as personal. That's the way I would sort of approach going about the next film. But, I mean, I absolutely love Skyfall. I love the way it was shot. Everything, the performances in the film are just blew me away. I think it was Craig and Judi Dench's best performances that I've seen from them in this franchise so far. I can't say enough good things about it. I really liked it.
Yeah, same here. How about you, Manos? Kind of generalized thoughts on Skyfall, why you thought it worked, and you know, just the things that kind of made it the good film that it was.
Yeah, I agree with all the points Dan made, actually. It was the first out of this new reboot series to put a hand out towards the past and embrace them and make them work in this sort of Bourne Legacy style era that they've kind of like adapted themselves into. And they really made it work, and I think that has a lot to do with the fact they had a named director do the film. They had Sam Mendes do it, where I rarely have heard of any of the Bond directors from time to time. It's mainly, you know, it's a franchise film, like Star Trek, for instance. Like, you know, how many named directors have done Star Trek films? Well, no, they usually come from people, I guess, the producers trust or something like that. And it's all very in-house, and it's all very, you know, planned, which, you know, works for these franchises because they've, you know, all lasted so long. But it's nice that they reached out and grabbed somebody who, you know, isn't a company guy. And, you know, Sam Mendes has done some really, really great films like, you know, American Beauty and Road to Perdition, for instance. And I think he understood, you know, what depth means to a character. You know, I've seen that theme come up in some of his other works. So he was able to well use it here. And, yeah, I mean, I was excited to see, you know, the Goldfinger Aston Martin again.
Indeed.
It's the first time the Daniel Craig Bond has used it. And we have, let's see, there was also that caretaker role. From what I understand, I don't know if this is a rumor or this was confirmed, that they approached Sean Connery about playing that role.
Oh, Kincaid?
Yeah, Kincaid.
Yes, he was. He was actually approached to do it. I don't know if it was him or Michael G. Wilson or Barbara Broccoli or even Sam Mendes who brought this up, but they thought that would be distracting because they thought that Sean Connery playing a character that was that close to Bond in terms of like personal relationship, they thought that would be distracting for the viewer. I don't necessarily agree just because Skyfall makes so many references. I think that would have just been the icing on the cake.
Yeah.
But I can see that point. And I like the guy that got anyway. But yeah, he was approached to do it.
Especially the way that character was introduced into the film. I mean, can you imagine if that was Connery and they kept it a secret?
That would have been amazing.
You would have heard people shit all over the theater.
Yeah, I was in the theater going, was this written for Connery or what?
Yeah, it definitely was. And yeah, that shot where he pops out of the shadows, it's like, oh my god, it's gonna be someone you know. It's like it's gonna be Connery, or it's gonna be somebody, and then it's random Scottish guy.
Yeah. Oh, wait, wasn't it Albert Finney who played it?
I don't know.
Okay.
I guess so. I don't know who that is anyway. I'm sorry.
That's
but,
okay. But yeah, so yeah, that's it. Learned, and you know, we have Moneypenny coming into the film.
Indeed.
So Yeah, I think the film really successfully, figured it out. What to work in, the old style versus the new style. For future Bond films, I really would be surprised if the next one would be so personal, because this one got really all into Bond. I mean, holy shit, we went back to his house, his childhood home. So
never anything like that in the franchise before. I mean, the closest we've ever gotten, and I'm serious about this, the closest we've ever gotten to something like that is in On Her Majesty's Secret Service, where they go a little bit into Bond's family history, and it's done in 2 lines.
Yeah. Man,
they tell...
It's amazing how beloved and iconic this character is, but we rarely really know that much about him. I remember when I went to see GoldenEye, and Sean Bean's 006 character just briefly mentions that his parents were killed in a skiing accident. I remember hearing people in the audience in the theater I went to see it with went, "Oh, ooh, yeah." It's like, yeah, we've been watching this character for 40 fucking years and we didn't even know anything like that.
Yeah, I know, right? It's so weird. I think it fits though, just because he's supposed to be a spy and all that. So I think it's interesting that we get it so little, and it does make sense. But one thing I like about Skyfall, just as a film in general, and not even necessarily just as a Bond film, is how unapologetic it is towards the time it's coming out. In this time where it is very much so a film of the post-Dark Knight action film. And it's very apparent the Dark Knight inspiration is in there. But I like that it's very unapologetic about how it tells its story very naturally, because, and again, this is more specifically towards the Bond trope, very little globe-trotting in this Bond film. Very, very little. We get a little bit towards the beginning where, obviously, it opens in Istanbul, and then it goes into China, and then we're back in England for the rest of the movie.
And I was blown away. I was blown away by the villain's secret lair in that abandoned island city.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And that was a real place, by the way.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. That's cool.
That was an actual place. It was abandoned because I forgot the circumstances. But yeah, that's a real abandoned island city that they got. So hey, thumbs up to the location scouts.
Yeah,
I don't know
sure.
I don't know if there's an Academy Award for location scouts, but there should have been.
Yeah, I mean, Skyfall would have won for that, because it took home the things I wanted to take home. So that would have just been one more on its shelf. Which, how long has it been since we've got an Oscar-winning Bond film, by the way?
A while.
The last one I remember is The Spy Who Loved Me.
What was it for? A song?
No, it was for, it was for music, but it was also for set design.
Okay. Well, usually the Bond films at least do well in song.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, yeah, they'll have a couple of films that nobody really cares about the song, but then there'll be like third or fourth movie that comes out with a really good song.
Yeah, I mean, no one's gonna go home raving about Another Way to Die. Because, it's not exactly Bond's finest hour in terms of songs.
Let me ask you guys this question, because I thought this was a really interesting choice in terms of, how Craig's career as Bond is going to go. I think it's a really interesting choice that they made the film where he's, like, Dark Knight Returns old James Bond in the smack dab in the middle of Daniel Craig's tenure as James Bond.
Yeah, I find that very interesting as well. Though, and it's weird because we just got 2 films establishing him as 007. Because that's why the gun barrel was at the end of Quantum of Solace, because they thought that would have been symbolic of now Bond is the Bond you know. Yeah. He just got over vengeance. Now it's time for the real kind of hardened spy James Bond, and I thought that was fitting. I find it very interesting that right after we get that, it's old, not necessarily old, but it's grizzled 007. He really, because the one thing they bring up in Skyfall is that no one has really lasted as a 00 this long. Mm-hmm. No one has been out in the field for the 6 years that we can work out that Daniel Craig's Bond has been out there as 007. Because, as he brings up in Casino Royale, 00s have a very short life expectancy. They're expected to go out there and get assassinated, and then they hire somebody else. But Bond is like this kind of, he stays in there, and he goes out there and he laughs. So it makes sense, at least in terms of the film's universe for it to be at this point. Because I mean, 6 years, that's a long time for someone going out there and assassinating people and pretending they're someone else for that long.
Yeah, it's about as dangerous the WWE, really. It's like, life expectancy is not that high.
God, yes, indeed. Oh my, that was a great joke, by the way. Dan, what was your question again? I'm sorry.
I just thought it was an interesting choice to do the film where he's coming back as James Bond that's old and out of shape and all that sort of thing. Like, I don't know, like, I was watching that film and I was obviously drawing parallels to Dark Knight Returns because I'm a comic book guy, and that's sort of the way I relate things when I think about stuff like that.
Are you talking about Dark Knight Returns or Rises?
Returns.
Okay.
So like how, he's out of shape, coming back, and all that sort of thing. It was very Returns to me. And I thought it was an interesting choice to do that, considering that Craig has 2 more films in his contract. Now that we've got old James Bond going on, we're going to have 2 more films of that.
Mm-hmm. Which makes me hope we're going to get. I guess we'll get into the future. We'll talk about Skyfall a little more, but I just want to say this about the future quick. It makes me think that when Craig leaves, they're going to reboot again.
You think so?
I think so because the way that this continuity has been going, it's been a very personal kind of Bond series. Like even Quantum of Solace. I mean, we're raving about how personal Skyfall is. So are Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace. I mean, they're all about vengeance and being a spy, and it's way more personal than Bond ever got before that in the old continuity of the continuity we could work out. But I'd be very surprised if they just do the old trick of just replacing the actors and doing the whole time up thing that Bond films seem to do. Yeah. Whenever we get a new actor, you have to time up all the films. Okay, so From Russia with Love happened in the 70s instead of the 60s. So I'd be very surprised if they do that. Just because again, it's been such a personal series for Bond, and honestly, I wouldn't be opposed to it because it makes the whole transition a little bit cleaner for people who are not the big Bond fans that we are, because a lot of people complain about that, how it's like, oh, they're referencing things that happened in the 60s, but this is the 90s, so, stuff like that. So I think they'll be a little smoother, and also I think it would be better to leave this Bond series as kind of its own personal story for 007.
Let me ask you that. Let me ask you this. With the subject of time up, do you think that's a generational issue? Where, time was like, 20 films, and it was like, that's 40 years or something like that. Yeah. It didn't really seem to bother folks very much. That Bond was getting replaced by younger guys, especially with the more Dalton switch over, because Moore was like practically fucking 60, something like that.
He was actually you're actually not exaggerating by much there. He was 58 when they did A View to a Kill.
Yeah, he was 58, and then he was suddenly Dalton, who was like in his 30s, I think, or something like that.
Early 40s.
Early 40s, and he was a good-looking 40s too. I mean, he looked like he was in great shape. That never really seemed to bother people much. Do you think that's now, since audiences are, I don't know, sometimes maybe a little more sophisticated than for their own good? Do you think?
I don't know if it's.
Do you think it's too much of a distraction now, or do you think modern audiences can just roll with it like they have been in the past?
I think that it's not like we don't get casting changes for characters and continuity anyway now, because it happened in The Dark Knight even, with Maggie Gyllenhaal taking the role from Katie Holmes. But I think that an audience is going to be way less accepting of it nowadays only because of the nature of how we find out about films nowadays. Because we know a lot more about a movie nowadays than people did back when, say GoldenEye came out. I mean, the internet existed, but we didn't have this mass knowledge of, who's going to play villains and what the color of the background is going to be on that house and where that one shot takes place. We don't know the level of people didn't know the level of knowledge that we do now. I think that that's going to hurt it only because you have a much shorter, it's at least mindset-wise, a much shorter gap between when films come out. You know what I mean? It's like 4 years between Quantum of Solace and Skyfall felt like 2 weeks in like internet time. You know what I mean? It's like it flew by. So, and then if you get like 2 films down the line where Daniel Craig is going to step down and you get someone else to replace him, I think people are going to be way less accepting of that, just because you mess with the you mess with continuity that people are going to be way more aware of now that we have this mass media.
Yeah,
I think it'll completely depend on how they approach doing the next 2 films, because Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace were sort of, Quantum of Solace was the sequel to that, and then that wasn't really successful, so they, just sort of jumped ahead in time. And Skyfall is not really a sequel to Quantum of Solace. It's just, the same character within the same continuity. I think it would be an interesting choice if they sort of were like, okay, for the next film, we're just going to do a standalone Bond adventure. We're not going to worry about continuity. We're just going to throw James Bond into a situation and see how he gets out of it. If they go in that direction, I could totally see it working where they recast someone after that. It'll all depend on how they go moving forward. I know that they wanted Mendes to come back and direct a sequel to Skyfall, but he recently, I think it was announced either today or yesterday, he refused. He's not going to. So,
yeah, I read that as well.
It'll be interesting to see how they handle it. I had heard that Idris Elba was in consideration cast after Craig, which is a strange choice.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a little bit. I have that on this list here with casting choices post Daniel Craig, since I figured that'd be something we'd bring up. But before we get into that, actually, I think that I actually think that Skyfall, as you mentioned, Skyfall was pretty standalone. I didn't mention anything that happened in Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace, but it's clearly in the same universe, obviously. But I think that with this being Craig's last 2 films, because he's played Bond for so long and it's been a new franchise, I would be a little bit disappointed if they didn't give him a nice, solid kind of wrap-up.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not necessarily saying James has to die or retire or any of that, because I'm actually not clear on how old Daniel Craig is, so I don't know if that would make sense in terms of, like, age-wise for him being an actor. Like, Roger Moore would have been like, dude, step down, please. But it's been over 10 years. I mean, we love you. Most of us do, but come on.
So Daniel Craig needs a love scene in a shower with Tanya Roberts. Is that how it should end in the series?
Oh, God. That's how they should end the series. I would. Oh God, yeah, that's how they should end it. Well, I was actually gonna bring this up a little later, but I'll bring it up now. I think the best previously established Bond story to end Daniel Craig's run on is the Blofeld stuff. I think the best way to take the ending of Daniel Craig's run is to do On Her Majesty's Secret Service and You Only Live Twice, and I'm mainly talking about the books. Just in terms of. Blofeld shows up, proves that he is like Bond's Joker, as me and Dan were describing him once. And then you do again another personal story for Bond, but it doesn't turn into one until the very end. Kind of like how the movie On Her Majesty's Secret Service is. I don't think they should call it that, just because that would be weird for Bond films to start doing that all of a sudden, where they start remaking old ones.
I've been wondering that. Like, will they eventually have to start reusing the old books?
Yeah, I mean, there's still stuff that's untapped with Fleming, name-wise at least. Like the stories have been done. Like I don't know if you guys have seen Roger Moore's film For Your Eyes Only.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yes.
Yeah, heavily borrows from the book For Your Eyes Only, which is a book of short stories.
Mm-hmm.
And it basically takes stuff from every single one. And actually, the most prominent one in there is not actually the book. Is not actually the story For Your Eyes Only. It's the story Risico. And that's a title they haven't used yet, and one I think that would work even today, because it just means risk in Spanish. So they have titles they can use. Story-wise, there's stuff after Fleming written by oh god, what's the guy's name? Cannot remember it. There's a guy after Fleming who actually wrote more James Bond books than Fleming did. So I think that and they haven't touched any of those yet. So I think that if the rights extend to them as well, I think that will be the next best place to take material from, since otherwise they're telling original stories, and they've been doing that since GoldenEye. But I think that would be the best place to go, at least for source material, if you run out of Fleming stuff, because there's only like 2 or 3 Fleming stories they haven't even tapped yet. But I think that would be the best place to go.
I think if they wanted to continue the series in this continuity after Craig, I think probably, well, there's a couple of different methods they could take. They could just start anew, like GoldenEye and Living Daylights. Give Bond a new breath of fresh air, and still kind of continuing the continuity, and maybe do it episodic. The series, lasted a good long while with being really, really standalone movies, which is why so many people don't know a lot about Bond's history, actually.
Yeah, indeed.
Because I think after the first couple of more films, they just kind of hey, we got this guy, go kill him, and then he sleeps with a couple of chicks, he goes to some weird places, and then it ends. So
yeah,
that was Bond for 10 years.
Yeah, indeed.
And I think maybe now that they've got the traditional Bond status quo set up with Moneypenny, the male M, a new Q, maybe they'll be going for a little bit more of a standalone approach like the old films, now that we've got that status quo set in stone.
Yeah, because I could see these three actors playing Moneypenny, Q, and M for a while.
Yeah, exactly.
And outlast Craig. I mean, in the same way Judi Dench outlasted Brosnan.
Yeah.
She's done 7 films? Skyfall was her 7th.
Yes, indeed. Yes. So, it's going to be so weird to see her not playing M.
I know. I mean, she really did become the... Yeah, I think it's interesting that I can't think of another reboot where an actor remained playing the same role. And in a different position, too, because don't forget, when she came on to the previous continuity, she was the new boss. And now
also heavily... Sure, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, now with the new continuity, she was the old boss and bringing on Bond.
Yeah, good point, because they make a big deal in GoldenEye out of the fact that she's the first female M. And I love the scene with the Russian mob guy who's just like, I hear the new M is a lady, and they all start laughing. I find that pretty funny, and it's obviously a very different thing for her because she brings up the Cold War in Casino Royale, so it's obviously she's been around for a while. And then it's also it makes it all the more tragic for both out of universe fans and in universe characters that she would die in Bond's arms, so to speak, because she as Dan mentioned earlier, she's kind of his surrogate mother.
Yeah.
He's got no parents or really anything. He's kind of abandoned Kincaid in terms of mentor stuff. He's kind of on his own. So this woman comes in, doesn't necessarily put him under her wing, but gives him someone to kind of to creak his neck up at. So I think that makes it all the more tragic that she did die in Skyfall.
Yeah, I agree. I kind of disagree in terms of taking him under her wing, though. I thought she did that, but it was sort of a tough love thing between them, and it was unspoken. You know what I'm saying? That's the
I said that
got from them in the performances, at least.
So I think I said
yeah, she's not exactly Mallory Archer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was more saying that he gives him someone to report back to, I suppose. Someone who she doesn't worry about him vocally, but you can tell, especially in Skyfall, that she does have this kind of sentimentality towards him. It was a poor choice of words. I apologize.
No. I just thought we had differing opinions. That's all.
No, we don't. I used a poor choice of words. Excuse me. But it's going to be very different with a new M. Let me bring up, you guys might consider this a small criticism, but it was a big thing for me. I was pissed the gun barrel was not at the beginning of Skyfall.
Yeah.
Because after Quantum of Solace kind of establishing a little bit anyway the Bond typical character, I was a little bit, and they have the gun barrel after that, I was a little bit pissed that they didn't just show it at the beginning now. We're getting a legit Bond story that's not just him beginning. I'm not saying it doesn't fit in Skyfall. It makes perfect sense, especially with Skyfall's ending, setting it up as the original status quo, with as Dan was pointing out, the male M and the Moneypenny and having a Q. It made sense. I just really hope the next movie has its gun barrel at the beginning.
That would be nice. I would hope so.
It's just an aesthetic thing. I know it's a little bit silly to make a big deal out of, but it was a big deal for me when I saw it because I was like, God damn it!
I sometimes wonder if the producers just got tired of doing the same exact thing every movie. Maybe they just wanted to switch it up after 45 years.
Very true. Very, very true. Because in Casino, I do like the play they do on it in Casino Royale, where
I love that. That was so cool because
me too.
Yeah,
you're into the scene, and then when he shoots him, it goes to the gun barrel thing. It's like, oh yeah, because it's James Bond.
Yeah, it was so cool. And then it goes into the amazing opening credit song in that movie because oh my god, those opening credits are awesome.
Yeah, it's a great song. I agree.
Yeah, so that's just one smaller thing I kind of hope they bring in now that we've had 3 films without it. Yeah, so I think we've kind of covered our overall opinions on Skyfall, so let's get more into specifically like story things for future films. I said I would like Blofeld to show up, potentially in a different role, with the whole Honor Majesty Secret Service kind of Bond story coming into it to kind of give Daniel Craig's career some finality, even if it's not the last film in this continuity. Is there anything like specifically story-wise, you guys being Bond fans, that you would like to see brought into this continuity, or just characters you'd like to see, just story overall?
It'll be interesting to see what they do with that secret quantum organization that we don't know who the head of it is yet. Because I had always assumed that it was going to be Blofeld eventually, and they were just waiting to do that reveal in a future film. But with how, not critically panned, but how people didn't really care for Quantum of Solace as much as they did with Casino, it'll be interesting to see if they just sort of drop that and never address it again. But
I was kind of I was also kind of hoping Quantum was going to lead us to Blofeld as well. It has been dropped for Skyfall. I'm hoping that maybe it gets picked up again. Next film.
That'd be great.
I always thought that it's like I like Spectre, but I could understand in a modern film like maybe let's not call it Spectre.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Quantum. Because bad guys don't think they're bad guys.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it is slightly more believable if they call themselves something else. I would love to see Blofeld return, and because you're right, he is his arch nemesis. He is his Moriarty or Joker, or blah blah blah. And I'm very curious in a modern world what Blofeld would be doing. I assume some sort of terrorist organization that uses maybe hired terrorist thugs and a lot of economic terrorism kind of floating in between nations.
Yeah.
So that's what I'd be very interested in seeing. Because people talk about the corruption in banks and connected to these mafias and these organizations and these political groups and stuff like that. Well, I mean, they could easily kind of float in between all that stuff.
Indeed,
yeah,
I agree.
Definitely, especially given the financial crisis of the world going on right now. It would be a really that would be an interesting political and just world issue to address in a Bond film through
For
the
sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, the thing about the original Blofeld was that he is very much so tied to his time in terms of the Cold War, but he's doing something that I think that could be very easily adapted to the present day, as you guys were saying, because in the original films, he's just trying to create anarchy, and enough anarchy that he can just overwhelm the anarchy and take it over. I mean, and from Russia with Love, what he's trying to do is make the U.S. and Russia destroy each other, so that way the two main superpowers are out, so Spectre can come in and dominate.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I love that plan, and while it's very much so connected to the nuclear and Cold War things, very easily adaptable to terrorist plots.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, a small misconception I think people have of Spectre and Blofeld is that they were the red threat, they were the commies. But it's like no, not at all. That's not really what they were. I mean, Blofeld was all about Blofeld, and
exactly.
He was a supervillain. He was a man trying to take over the world. All the serious version of Dr. Evil. Essentially.
Indeed. Yeah. So that'll actually bring me into this. Who do you guys think could play Blofeld in a modern context? I hate to throw that on you without any kind of like prior research, but one I was thinking two actually I was thinking to get the conversation going. Benedict Cumberbatch, who plays Sherlock in Sherlock,
and not
and he's also going to play someone in Star Trek Into Darkness. We don't know if it's Khan yet, but we're thinking it's someone. I think that his voice and the cold indifference he plays so well in Sherlock would be awesome if they did it with Blofeld. I think that he would just be amazing as a Bond villain in general, but as Blofeld, I would orgasm.
Oh, I'm trying to think. I mean, I think 20 years ago, Patrick Stewart could have been an awesome Blofeld.
Oh, yeah.
But, I don't know.
You know, I think might be able to do it. I've watched the first episode of House of Cards the other day, and I think Kevin Spacey might be able to pull it off.
I was about to say the same thing.
Oh, he'd be a good one. And he's still young enough to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect age, in fact, I think. I'm thinking back to this Austin Powers sketch that was done in one of the films. I'm not terribly familiar with it myself, but I remember seeing it like a clip on Reels channel or something where they show that there was like an end credit scene where they show like all the Austin Powers characters played by major actors. Like they show Austin Powers played by Tom Cruise, and the girl is Cameron Diaz, and the villain is Kevin Spacey as Dr. Evil. So like he should be Blofeld.
Yeah, he's already played Luthor.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it's time to play Blofeld.
Indeed, it's the next step up. I think he's going to turn to like his agent and be like, "Are you just trying to get me bald villain roles? Because I mean,
I know I'm not exactly a hairy guy." Although maybe perhaps Alan Rickman could do the role.
Ooh,
oh,
that'd be cool.
Interesting. Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Or shit. How about could Gary Oldman do it? He hasn't done a villain in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, after 3 movies as Commissioner Gordon, give them. I mean, again, even if he's not Blofeld, yeah, Bond villain all the way. In generalized villain terms, I think Liam Neeson could be a cool Bond villain too.
Oh yeah. He would be pretty good. I personally would like someone British and scary. That's kind of my requisites for a good Blofeld.
So we're gonna bring Winston Churchill back to life and cast him as Blofeld.
Like an evil Churchill.
Yes, I think that would work nicely.
But
yeah,
because my favorite Blofeld. I don't know if you guys have one, but Donald Pleasance is. I mean, just that imagery of him is just so strong, and there were like a whole bunch. And Blofeld was in several movies even before he showed up.
Yeah, indeed. He was in From Russia with Love.
But I always thought he was the strongest Blofeld, frankly.
I agree. He's my favorite as well. Though Telly Savalas, I think, is underrated as Blofeld.
He is Blofeld, that's true.
No one talks about him as Blofeld. Everyone points to Pleasance, and then they point to Max von Sydow and Never Say Never Again, which I don't know what drugs they're on, but whatever.
Well, I think the weakest Blofeld is I don't remember the actor's name, but he was the narrator in Rocky Horror Picture Show.
In Diamonds Are Forever, yeah, Charles Gray.
Charles Gray. I mean, a good actor, but not the Blofeld I was looking for.
All right.
Guys, he dresses in drag in that movie. That's fucking Blofeld.
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't.
Yeah, he does.
No.
You sure?
I've seen them film 8,000 times. The guy in the library who explains the movie, I don't believe ever is in drag at all.
Wait, in Rocky Horror Picture Show or in Diamonds Are Forever?
No, Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh, no, I was talking about Diamonds Are Forever.
Oh, excuse me.
It's cool. He dresses in drag.
Honestly, in Bond, he dresses in drag.
Make more sense in Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah. It's
like, and then he shows up as like the Bond's Joker. It's like, oh, drag. Definitely. Why not? Yeah, I don't like Charles Gray as Blofeld. Interestingly enough, he plays a small role in You Only Live Twice, so he's been in Bond films before that.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's hilarious that they would cast him as Blofeld, and he's not a very good one at that. I like the voice they use in From Russia with Love. I think it's a very, very like ominous, like very clearly the leader of a big bad organization.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't want to mess with that guy.
Yeah, I don't know who that guy. I don't know who he is. The little bit you can see at the top of his head, he's clearly not what Blofeld became. Because you can see that he has black hair and he's wearing a black suit. So they were obviously working on it in the meantime. And in fact, during filming on You Only Live Twice, they actually had another guy playing Blofeld. They literally cast Donald Pleasance like 3 days before they started filming his scenes.
Wow, really? Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and they added the scar in that time too because the original Blofeld didn't have scars. Yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, for me, it's Donald Pleasance as well, and I really enjoyed Telly Savalas as Blofeld as well. How about you, Dan? I don't think you weighed in on that.
I'd have to say Pleasance too. He's the iconic imagery I always think of when I think of Blofeld, and I think he gave the most intimidating performance of all the people that actually gave a performance other than a voice, as you were saying before. I'd have to agree with you guys on that one.
Indeed. Okay, so I'm just trying to think what the next topic is. So I think we kind of covered, like, story-wise what we would like in the next film. I think we all agree Blofeld is a good place to go. Trying to think of other things I wanted to bring up. I think I mentioned, I think we already talked about this, but Blofeld being the head of Quantum, bringing Quantum back, again, I think would be very effective at closing Craig's career as Bond, bringing back the organization that prompted him into becoming, not becoming 007, but one of his first adventures as 007 being Casino Royale. So I think that, again, very fitting for a closing entry. And again, it works fine with Blofeld because Quantum basically tries to do the same exact thing that Spectre tried to do back in the 60s, because in Quantum of Solace, they're trying to get everyone to rely on Bolivia, which they've taken over, for oil, and they don't even have oil, they have water.
Yeah, it was very obvious to me that's what they were sort of telegraphing with that whole Quantum organization, that it was eventually going to be Blofeld, but it'll be interesting to see if they pick up on that, like we said before. Who would you guys cast as James Bond after Daniel Craig? I'm curious to know. Since we were talking about casting before.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that back up. Oh boy, this is the trying times, my friends. This is the big one. I once heard someone make a joke that we elect presidents and we elect Bonds. So I'm gonna say, but he might be too old at this point. But I don't care. I want to see Clive Owen just play him once.
Yeah.
I just think that would be perfect because he looks like the classic image of James Bond. He's obviously British. He's played James Bond roles tons of times. I saw him in this spy movie called Duplicity, and he's playing an MI6 agent, and it's a very James Bond kind of character. He's very suave. He's a womanizer. It's not an action movie, but it's obviously got the Bond stuff in there. I think that he would be perfect as Bond. Problem is he's already almost 50, so might be beyond his time. But I think even just give him one go, I would be totally I would jizz.
I agree. Clive Owen would make an awesome Bond, but you're right about the age thing. That is kind of a possible disqualifier. I would, if we're sticking with the continuity, I would try to get an actor who is the age of Craig when he started. And
oh yeah, that would be a good thing to go to as well.
So I don't know. I have such trouble. I don't know. I have a lot of trouble figuring out who would be a good future Bond. Possibly. Hey, who's the guy who played Bane?
Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy.
Oh yeah,
that could work.
I didn't even think of that.
And I'm not. Of course, I'm not thinking so much, in his Bane performance. But I'm thinking a lot of his performance in Inception.
I was thinking of that as well. The whole kind of suave thing which he has going in that film. He also looks a little bit like Daniel Craig, at least in the face. His hair is obviously way different, but that could be obviously.
Yeah, I think we can figure out hair.
Yeah, the face is a problem. Unless you're willing to go through plastic surgery to play Bond, I don't know who anyone's up for that.
Creating planets and Avatar, yeah, no problem. Hair, fuck it. We don't know what to do.
We have no idea what we're doing when it comes to hair. But yeah, I think Tom Hardy could do it. Dan, you brought it up earlier. They're deeply considering casting Idris Elba. Let's talk about that a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna say the obvious thing here. Obviously, an African American actor. Would you guys mind making Bond black?
I kind of resist the whole thing about like taking characters that were previously Caucasian and making them minority just for the novelty of it. Why don't we just make a spy movie with Idris Elba as the main character, who's new? God forbid.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. My problem with it is that's like the only reason. Obviously, I think he has kind of the Bond personality in him and the stuff I've seen him in. But again, the thing is, and I'm going to say this, and I don't mean this to sound racist. I'm just being realistic. I can't imagine Idris Elba growing up in a house in Scotland.
It changes the character. I'm just
Yeah.
a different background.
Hello?
Hello?
Dan, you still there?
Yeah.
Okay, you cut out really bad for a second.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm sorry, what were you saying? Because the audio was so bad I couldn't even hear you.
It's just, it's a drastic change to the character's background. It's almost like he couldn't, I don't know. I don't really see it just because I'm not a big fan of that whole novelty thing, mainly.
I agree.
It's funny. This isn't the first time that's been discussed. I remember the studio in the '90s before Brosnan was brought on. Because how many years was it between License to Kill and GoldenEye? Like 7 years?
Yeah, 6 years.
Yeah, Bond took a long break, and don't forget, as enjoyable License to Kill is, it didn't do very well.
No, it was the lowest grossing one.
Yeah, and so there was a lot of, I remember that period where people were like, well, are they doing any more Bond films? And there was a period where they were discussing maybe recasting Bond to appeal to the new hip audience of the 90s. And they were talking about maybe casting a black actor. They were even talking about casting American actors too, like Denzel Washington. And they were even,
that would have been weird.
They were even talking about going all the way and making a Jane Bond with Sharon Stone.
Oh.
Of all people. Yeah, that's totally who I thought. But that's how.
Oh, wow.
That's how bad. That's how off the rails this series was during the early to mid '90s. And I could accept a black actor as Bond if only they rebooted the series.
I agree. That would be the sequel for sure.
I'm fine if they reboot the series because I don't want a Batman Forever the thing. Where
yeah,
in movie
exactly.
1 he's black. In movie 3 he's white. It's no.
Indeed, I agree. It's
this is one of those theater. This is film.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of those things where they're only. I feel like I'm with Dan. It's partially novelty, and that's not how you make film. That's how you make commercial film, and that's not what I like to see. So I realize it's not.
Films are pretty commercial.
Yeah, I know, but it's not done for a character reason. It's just because why not? Which I don't agree with. But yeah, aside from that odd casting option, I can't think of many others. At least current actor wise. They were also considering Michael Caine back when GoldenEye was being planned, which I thought would have been interesting.
Oh, he was kind of old then.
Yeah, during the GoldenEye era. Wow.
Yeah, they were. I was reading an article the other day. I could have been wrong. It was on the internet this morning, you guys, where they were actually considering casting Michael Caine. So I don't know, it could have even been early, but I remember distinctly them writing before Brosnan was cast in GoldenEye and after Dalton quit the role because he didn't get fired. He quit. And they were considering doing Michael Caine. So I think that would have been interesting if nothing else.
Wow.
But yeah, so that I guess that'll cover us doing actor wise. But yeah, again, it's just Idris Elba, fine actor. As Manos pointed out, if they rebooted the franchise, I think it could work. Because again, it's not his personality that's in question. I think that he's got some of the Bond personality in there. It's unfortunately a race thing because it's drastically changing the character, as Dan pointed out. Just because you're changing the background, you are changing how people perceive him. So it is a very different thing. Again, unless they rebooted, I don't think it could work. Again, Clive Owen, I think could work in one movie just before he reaches the Roger Moore point, where he's like
really creepy that he's sleeping with women that are 25.
Yeah, we don't need to get that bad, but just give him one movie. I think that'll satisfy me, just because the man is James Bond without playing James Bond. So that's for me.
I'd see an actor with because Bond in the novels, as I was reading, He has black hair and blue eyes, and I don't think we've ever seen that combination in an actor before he's played him. So if they want to go straight up, like, adapting the novels, getting an actor that looked like that would be cool.
Mm-hmm.
I think Timothy Dalton had that.
Oh, gee, okay.
I don't know for sure, though. I could be wrong. I've never looked longingly into Timothy Dalton's eyes. I promise. But I think that had that. But yeah, I think because we've had obviously Daniel Craig was criticized when he was first cast for not fitting the original Bond persona.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, that was ridiculous. Like, oh my God, he's blonde.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. Just based on that, but again, it's I wouldn't mind if they find someone who has the classic Bond look. I don't mind a hair change. I mean, I don't care about that. It's Idris Elba that would cause a problem. But yeah,
I always found that to be kind of stupid. It's like we can accept he'll have different bodies for 40 years, but oh God forbid, his hair's a different color.
Yeah, I know, and also a different cut because I've been reading this biography by Roger Moore about his Bond career, which also chronicles the other Bond careers, and he was talking about how when he got cast, he had to go to Sean Connery's barber.
Really? Wow.
Because hilarious. That is hilarious because they wanted him to look as much like Sean Connery as they possibly could.
That first appointment must have been awkward. He's yanking on Roger Moore's hair. It's like, wait, this doesn't come off.
Oh, good joke. Oh, that was good. George Lazenby was even worse because he had to go to Sean Connery's tailor.
Man.
At least with Moore, they try because Roger Moore had played a spy before that, so we kind of knew the clothes. But George Lazenby, obviously, that was like one of his first roles. So they said everything Connery did, Lazenby did. That was the mantra. Roger Moore, they gave him a little bit more flexibility, except for the hair. But Lazenby, everything Sean Connery did, went to, wore, smoked, everything he had to do.
Wow, that's
so.
When did that end? Did it end with Dalton? Like, did he have to like shop at the same Walmart as?
Oh no. Same Walmart. No, it was. I think they actually. Well, again, they stopped it with You mean hair mainly, right?
I was just curious if like Dalton did do things that Connery did because that's kind of hilarious. They made everyone do that.
They mainly stopped with Roger Moore. Again, really the only thing they were being sticklers about was the hair.
Oh, okay.
Because Roger Moore had long hair before that. I mean, everything else. I mean, the big thing is that people point out is Roger Moore smoked cigars and Sean Connery smoked cigarettes as Bond.
Yeah.
That's obviously a big difference. Just visually.
Moore was also the first Bond to drop the hat.
Indeed, good point.
Yes.
Yeah, he didn't wear a hat until For Your Eyes Only. Yeah, so that got rid of that cool visual where whenever Bond walked into an office, he threw the hat.
Yeah, I always liked that.
Yeah, that was always fun. So we've basically covered everything I had on my list. The final thing is Bond girls, but I'm looking at that now. That's kind of an awkward thing to discuss before the movie's premise is given, because my thing with Bond girls is I always hate it when they're just forced into the story just because we need a Bond girl.
Agreed.
Like Miranda Frost in Die Another Day. It's just like, we need another white Bond girl. Who can we get? That and Madonna in that movie too.
Well, it's always funny to me that the person he needs in whatever situation is always a woman, a hot woman to be exact. Like, what if he has to talk to what if he has to deal with a guy who has to help him out?
Yeah, it happens very rarely. I mean, the first example.
The only people who ever can help him out are incredibly hot chicks with weird, funny names.
I appreciated that little reference. I mean, I thought that's what they were sort of talking about in Skyfall, where Silva was coming on to him, and he was like, "What makes you think this is my first time?" implying that he's had to do things like that in the field before.
Yeah, exactly. That scene was
not that they showed it or anything, but I just thought that was an interesting. They addressed that. It was cool.
Yeah. And one thing I thought was interesting was that when I saw that in theaters, no one knew how to react to that. No one knew whether to laugh or groan or open their mouths because no one knew what it meant. Like I didn't even know. I didn't catch on that it was supposed to have deeper implications than just being a gay joke. Yeah, that scene was weird to sit in with an early audience because I saw that movie opening day. So it was weird to be like with an early audience reacting to that.
Yeah, especially in a James Bond movie where it's usually like testosterone fest, you know?
Exactly. You better be heterosexual, otherwise you're a villain.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had gay villains before. You better be a villain if you're going to be gay.
I actually also like the fact that it did made probably more conservative viewers a little uncomfortable. It's like, oh, hey, Bond might get raped by a dude here.
Oh, God.
This is kind of like scary.
Yeah, it was echoing a little bit the torture scene Casino Royale, for sure.
Yeah. But that was more just brutalizing Bond. This was like, you know, this guy might fuck him.
Oh, God, yeah.
So, you know, that's a whole different thing there.
That's a whole new level of torture. Yeah, I love that scene in Skyfall, though, just because Silva's opening shot where he comes out of the elevator.
Oh,
I haven't seen a continuous shot in an action movie in years.
That's very true.
Yeah.
So that was amazing.
Hey, have you ever seen Hard Boiled?
I haven't.
Is that an Asian film?
Yes, it's from 1990.
I haven't seen it. Yeah, I haven't seen it. I know of it.
There is a fantastic shootout scene in a building where it's, I think, maybe 3 to 5 minutes of a continuous shot of our heroes running down hallways, you know, taking out bad guys. That is awesome. Oh, it's an amazing sequence. Because you know all these stuntmen had to get this shit right.
Mm-hmm. That's obviously the problem with the continuous shot. As an amateur filmmaker myself, I know how hard it is to have something like as complex as that in a continuous shot. But when it works, it's awesome. And Skyfall was a good example of that with Silva's little monologue there.
Oh yeah, for sure.
About the rats.
Oh, I know that speech is great. And you know he's still believable, but he's also still very super villainish.
Indeed, yeah. I like the explanation they give for that, because they kind of give it a similar thing. They treat it a little bit like they did the Joker in The Dark Knight, where to put in an over the top character like that in a realistic universe, a reason is kind of asked for, and he got poisoned with cyanide. That's going to mess around with your brain a little bit. So the fact that he's very loopy in the head, it makes sense. And I love that backstory, by the way. So fitting for a spy movie.
Yeah. I think one of the things about the Bond franchise that's helped kept it alive is that it's been able to refresh itself every generation by kind of borrowing from, you know, other popular movies that are kind of in its genre. Like there was a lot talked about how Casino Royale and Quantum borrowed quite a bit from the Bourne series. And, you know, I do believe there's a little bit of Nolan's Dark Knight in this.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Specifically, the second film, Dark Knight, which is hilarious because there's a total Bond sequence in Rises.
There's a lot of plane. Yeah, there's a lot of Bond in Nolan's Batman, and there's a lot of Nolan's Batman in Skyfall, which I find hilarious. It is really funny and ironic.
It'll be interesting to see what happens, because Nolan has been very outspoken about the fact that he wants to do a Bond film. If they reach out and get him, it'll be interesting to see how that goes, because we've already sort of gotten a Nolan-esque Bond movie that wasn't by him.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, it's funny. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say that, you know, it's... You know, Nolan could do no interviews, and I could tell from that sequence in Rises that he wants to do a Bond film really bad.
Yeah, it's funny because I actually watched License to Kill around there, and that's the sequence they're referencing.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute, oh my god, he picked a plane up with a cable. So I found that cool. I would love to see Nolan do a Bond film. Even though Mendes has come out and said that The Dark Knight was a big inspiration for him, visually especially. I mean, that Shanghai scene where Bond is stalking Patrice, it's very reminiscent of the blues that you saw in Batman taking out or taking Lau out of Shanghai in The Dark Knight.
And also when Silva is caught and let himself get caught, and he's planning, you know, his biggest attack from within the jail cell. Mm-hmm. I mean, that had me thinking about Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Very true. Yeah. And one thing I think we touched on earlier, I love how enveloped in England Skyfall is with Bond, because I don't think we've ever had a Bond film where they've called an apartment a flat. And I don't know, just as someone who listens to and watches a lot of British media, that's kind of weird, because Bond is this huge British icon, and we've never heard him call something a flat. So I don't know, that was something that stuck out to me personally.
Well, he's usually in, like, I don't know, every other country besides England, so I guess he doesn't get to say it very much.
Yeah, so I found that cool. I think the only other English sequence that takes place largely in England in Bond is the opening chase scene in The World Is Not Enough.
Yeah, there's also some scenes in yeah, The World Was Not Enough. Oh yeah, that is the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, with the boat chase?
Yeah, the boat chase, yeah.
Yeah, that's The World Is Not Enough.
Yeah, okay.
So I thought that was interesting too. So we were on Bond Girls and we got off on a whole different end. That's fine.
The problem is there's no, besides M and Moneypenny, there really haven't been any recurring Bond female characters. You know, they're all one and dones.
Yeah, and that's interesting because I've always wanted to see one carry over just to see the reaction Bond would have. Because he rarely does make reference to previous ones. I think there's only one time I can think of, and that's in On Her Majesty's Secret Service, where he pulls out the knife that Honey Ryder had in Dr. No, which I always loved.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if he had some kind of run-in with one of them, the relationship, of course, went sour because what relationship with Bond goes well.
Exactly. Yeah.
That might be interesting. But
one that
actually they've come close to it. I know Maude Adams was in a previous Bond film playing a different character, and then showing up as Octopussy.
Oh yeah, she was the lead Bond girl in The Man with the Golden Gun.
Yeah, and she came back playing a different character.
Yeah. So yeah, there's been actresses that have reprised their roles. I mean, what's her name? Ursula Andress, who played Honey Ryder in Dr. No, is in an unofficial Bond film, the parody Casino Royale in 1960. I think it's 67. So I found that interesting as well. I mean, I hate that movie, but it's interesting to see her return. But one that I think will be interesting to see in this continuity is and I always forget her name in the movie itself, but Olga Kurylenko's character in Quantum of Solace.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have a relationship in that film. They were just kind of partners. So I think it'd be interesting to see her come back, especially if we're going to bring back Quantum.
Yeah, she was pretty cool. There was talk about spinning off Halle Berry's character.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. They were going to give her own Jinx film.
Yeah, and it all seemed to be set up there. She had her own boss, played by Michael Madsen. And you could easily believe they could do an American kind of Bond type of film series with Jinx.
Yeah,
I'm not sure why it didn't get off the ground.
I think it was the fact that Die Another Day. I honestly think this is the reason. The fact that Die Another Day was panned by critics. It made plenty of money. Money was not a concern. It was the fact that everyone hated it.
Yeah.
So that's why Casino Royale is a reboot, because the production company was scared that no one would go see the next Bond film if they continued in the same continuity.
Are you sure about that? Because I don't know if it was. I don't know if it was Batman and Robin bad to the point where they had to reboot the series. I mean,
no, it's not as bad as Batman and Robin.
I mean, oh my God, we've done 20 films. This one totally fucked it up. Let's reboot.
I don't know if that was the reason. I also just think it was if that's the reason I've heard though is the money thing, because they knew it made money, but they were mainly basing on the rule of diminishing returns.
Yeah.
Because Die Another Day was very much done in the same style of The World Is Not Enough. So I think they figured if we go even crazier than that, people are going to catch on that this isn't very deep in terms of character stuff. It's just a lot of really high concept action stolen from Mission Impossible and The Matrix.
I always felt that there was a lot of more Bond in that film, actually.
Yeah,
because what I always got from that movie, and I don't hate the movie, by the way. I don't love it, but I don't hate it either. I don't know if that makes me a minority or anything like that, but it was an obvious 20th film anniversary celebration kind of film.
For sure.
And I'm pretty sure they were going for, and maybe agree with me, they were trying to incorporate everything about the Bond series in this one film, and embracing, the more serious stuff. I mean, Jesus, we watched Bond get tortured for the first fucking 10 minutes of the movie.
True, yeah.
And nobody remembers that sequence. It's like he's getting tortured and waterboarded for the credits.
Yeah.
And it also at the same time tried to embrace the more goofy stuff, i.e. the more years.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know. I suppose it wasn't totally successful, but I always did appreciate the attempt.
Yeah, my biggest problem with Die Another Day, just as a Bond fan, is that it tries really hard to get in all the references, and a lot of them are cool. Like, I love the Aston Martin Vanquish. That's a nice-ass car.
It's a beautiful car.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous car. And then I also like the scene where Bond and the new Q, played by John Cleese, are in that room where you see all the previous like Bond gadgets just on a wall.
That was great. I love that.
Yeah, that was really cool. But the story doesn't seem to call for it, at least in my opinion. It just kind of seems to be thrown in there for a 40th anniversary thing. And then we get Skyfall, which does it drastically better.
Yes.
And I'm not saying I'm comparing them necessarily, but...
No. I compare them. I think they both attempted the same thing. They're both kind of anniversary films in a way. Like, Die Another Day was like the 20th film, right? And Skyfall is the 50th anniversary film. So They are kind of markers, and they both do the same. They both try to do the same thing, but Skyfall is just more successful.
Yeah, I think that's an apt way of putting it. I don't hate the first like 15 minutes of Die Another Day. I like the opening chase scene, as over the top as it is. Hovercraft tanks is awesome. I don't
can't
care what
go wrong
says.
with hovercraft tanks.
No, not at all. And James Bond killing Koreans with an Uzi. I mean, not that I have anything against Koreans, but that sequence is awesome.
Oh, that's what I took from that statement.
Okay, I'll delete that later. No. Let's see here. I think we've kind of covered everything on my list. Is there anything else you guys would like to bring up specifically about kind of the future of Bond, even past Bond films? Just kind of anything else you'd like to bring up in this video?
I think it might be cool if we're bringing back the old cars to bring the Lotus back. I like that car a lot. My dad owned one when I was a kid, so that was always my favorite James Bond car.
I forgot about that. Yeah. Does Lotus still exist?
Yes, they do.
They do. That'd be interesting then. For sure. How about you, Manos? Anything else you'd like to bring up?
I don't know if I have anything else new. I'd like to. I mean, yeah, I'd love to see this Bond series continue a while. I'd like to see Quantum and Blofeld come into focus. It'd be cool to see like another Bond girl come back in some way.
Yeah, I'd like
or wouldn't it be interesting if like a former Bond girl character came back as a villain?
Oh,
right? Like somebody hooked up with and had an adventure with in one of these previous films. Kind of took a left turn in her path and became a villain.
I'm trying to think of what Bond girls are still alive from the Craig continuity that we could use. I mean, we mentioned the one from Quantum that's his partner.
Yeah.
And her character is kind of left in an unknowing place because she's taken revenge on the guy who killed her parents, just in the same way Bond took revenge on Quantum.
Yeah.
So she's left in kind of a where do I go now? So wouldn't it make perfect sense if she would have become, not necessarily saying like cartoon style evil where she's twirling a mustache because that'd be weird, but ran a criminal organization that Bond had to deal with. I think that'd be interesting.
Well, that's not. Yeah, I think that's actually a pretty good choice because there's a classic villain trope where the villain is sort of a mirror image of the hero. Like, what if the hero had made this choice? Maybe they would have been this villain.
Yeah.
So, that'd be a pretty good choice.
Refresh my memory on this because I haven't seen Quantum in a while. She's not aligned to any sort of country or anything in her exploits.
No, she is. She's Bolivian Secret Service.
Okay. At the end of the movie, is she still with them? Because I think it would be an interesting choice, because like Bond's whole character arc, when I was reading Casino Royale, when I fished it the other day, was towards the middle of the novel, he's sort of questioning his loyalty to his country, and then when the whole thing with Vesper goes down, it sort of reaffirms that he needs to stay with the Secret Service and keep the loyalty of his country to prevent people like that from messing everything up. I think it'd be interesting to see her sort of have a falling out with her, their loyalty with their country, and James Bond obviously isn't going to do that, and have them be mirrored in that way. I think that might be interesting.
Yeah, because it is. It's very possible for a spy to lose their faith in their country and all they believed in, because let's not forget, they see everything.
Yes.
They see all the dirty laundry, and they see the skeletons in the closet. So, it could easily be believed that one could be so jaded that they could just look out for number one or switch sides. Depending on what the situation was.
Yeah, because we even kind of had it a little bit with Silva, where he was obviously working with at least affiliated with MI6 in some way, and obviously he just couldn't take the realization of what spying is, and he obviously took it to a whole new extreme when he went after M. So it's not that it hasn't been done in the Bond series before, but I think doing it in a way where you show that the person was at one point aligned with Bond in a strong way and had this kind of unquestioning loyalty with their country. Because even with 006 and GoldenEye, he had some shifty stuff before this because he faked his own death. So even then, it wasn't like he was totally purely with England. So I think it'd be interesting to see. A character who we really see that 360 turn.
Yeah, it would be refreshing to do that, as opposed to GoldenEye, where we meet the character for the first time in the same movie, and then they turn. If we'd seen the character before and had some kind of connection with, maybe, and then they've made that turn.
I agree. Yeah,
I agree, because if we're going to be rebooting, if we rebooted James Bond continuity, why not take advantage of that? You know what I'm saying? Like, I think it would be a great idea to have a recurring character come back, and it would totally flip the Bond girl dynamic on its head. I don't think that's ever been done before, where the female would sort of take a dominant role over Bond, possibly. That never happens. Bond's manhood is never in question in that regard.
Yeah, we never have had a female villain, I don't think. At least like a full-on villain. Like Octopussy's a little bit of a villain towards the beginning. Yeah. But she becomes the Bond girl by the end, and we've never had a proper female Bond villain. So I think that'd be another really interesting change of pace. I'm not saying make Blofeld the girl, but if you do another villain.
Well, they've been the one in what's the one before Die Another Day? What's that one called?
The World Is Not Enough.
The World Is Not Enough. One of my problems with the Bosnan films is I can't remember the names of those. Besides,
they're all like slogans.
Yeah, they all basically have the same words. In the titles, but the third one. I think the villain behind it was a female character, but the main heavy was the male character, and her battle, her last confrontation with Bond isn't the final big deal explosive thing. Exactly. And then, the other female villains have been, heavies, like, Onatop and Mayday and stuff like that.
Yeah, thinking back on it now, they have done it before, like, even in From Russia, as early as From Russia with Love, you have Rosa Klebb, who, even though she's not the main one even then, though, but still she's kind of the one pulling the strings that's not Blofeld. Yeah. So she is widely considered to be the main villain of that film because we don't know who Blofeld is yet. Yeah. Right. So we have had them before, but I would like to see, like, again, a proper one where it's like she is the end-all be-all villain.
Yeah. And don't Christopher Nolan it where we don't know she's the villain until the last 2 minutes.
Oh boy, that would be awkward.
Will Christopher Nolan it with like Jaws or Odd Job or something, where it's like a big reveal at the end. Ooh, his hat! It has spikes on it.
Ooh, the hat was doing the whole thinking the whole time.
It's Frank Miller's evil hat.
Oh, it's like, just give us a villain, Chris. Not everything has to be a big reveal.
Yeah, especially since everyone who was a comic book fan knew she was Talia from, like, scene 1.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
It's like we've seen the pictures of her in the Jedi outfit. We know she's Talia.
Oh, wow, yeah, you're right. Forgot about that. No, but, crap, what was I going to say?
But yeah, a straightforward female villain. And it would be cool if it was like a previous girlfriend.
Yes.
Yeah. Again, I think Olga Kurylenko's character would be... Her name is Me. I just realized her name is Me.
Okay, that's a really good choice, by the way.
Yeah. I think that would work great. Because she is also the only surviving Bond girl who's not Moneypenny.
Yeah.
In this continuity, because Vesper's dead. The one he banged before he banged Vesper is dead.
Hey! We haven't had a chance before we stop talking about this. What you guys make of New Moneypenny?
I liked her a lot. I thought she was perfect.
I adored her. I thought she was fantastic. And yeah, like Talia from Rises. Yeah, we all knew it was the person.
But at least she's not like the main plot thread.
Yeah. Not everything hinged on this little twist. It was more of, hey, it's cool. Hey, that's Moneypenny. And rather than like, oh, I was Moneypenny the whole time. And
oh my God, Moneypenny is a Bond villain.
Yeah, but it was also really exciting to see Moneypenny in action.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've never had that before. She's always in that little corner of the office.
Yeah, she's a clock watcher in the other films. The only time I've ever seen like Moneypenny get some action scenes is in the James Bond ripoff Operation Kid Brother.
I've never heard of that. What is that?
Oh, it's a weird ass James Bond ripoff that was made in the '60s, starring Neil Connery.
Oh, what?
I'm not kidding.
Manos, is that the one they did in MST3K?
Yeah, it was MST3K.
Okay, I thought so.
And
okay.
It's called a couple other things, like 007.
Oh, I do remember that now. Okay.
And for viewers at home who don't know what the hell I'm talking about, it was made by an Italian studio, and the plot is Neil Connery is Dr. Connery, get it? And he is the brother, very successful super guy, get it? Who apparently, I guess, is on vacation or doing some other important job. So he ends up mixed up in this spy case that he's needed on. He's a plastic surgeon who's also a hypnotist and a kung fu expert, and all plastic surgeons. And the film has a number of Bond actors in it. I think it's the original M. The Lois Maxwell, who played the original Moneypenny, is in it.
Oh, wow.
The villain, I can't remember his name. The villain from Thunderball was in it.
Oh, Largo?
Largo's in it. And a number of, other bit players from the Bond series. Like there's a couple of Bond girls mixed in there, here and there. And Lois Maxwell actually has a couple of shootout scenes she's involved in it. She actually has action scenes.
That's awesome.
That's hilarious.
And, it's a weird film because I don't know if it's a comedy or straight up ripoff. I really don't. And it works like a generic Bond film. But it just has this weird quality to it. So, yeah, that's the only time I've ever seen Moneypenny do an action scene was out of continuity in a ripoff. So it was refreshing to see an actual Moneypenny, like in that first action sequence. That was really awesome. And it, established. I like that. I like the fact that she's tough, but in this movie, in this storyline, she realizes that being in the field is not for her.
Right.
And she's physically capable of it, but she's just not. She just doesn't have that attitude for it. And I also like the Samantha Bond Moneypenny from the previous Bond Brosnan films, but I really like this new one a lot.
I like
Yeah,
I like her too. I like what they did in Skyfall too, in that scene where they were in the room in China, and it's heavily implied that they sleep together, like when they flirt in the office all the time in the Connery films, but they never actually show it. I appreciated that because it was a little callback that I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do get the feeling that they slept together.
Yeah, and you get that feeling
so.
from the the little flirtations they have in the office and stuff like that too.
Because you've always had this feeling that, yeah, he bangs all these chicks all the time, but if he had to, if he could settle down, it would be with Moneypenny.
Yeah, I always love the shot in On Her Majesty's Secret Service where he's about to drive off in the Aston Martin DBS with Tracy, and he turns around and there's Moneypenny crying.
Yeah.
And he throws his hat to her, and then he smiles and waves. I always love that shot because it's very clear that he loves her. I think that what you guys pointed out is accurate. That it's the feel thing. It's that he could not possibly settle down with her, and it proves it with Tracy because 5 minutes later she gets gunned down. So it's a very interesting relationship, and one that I think was done very well in Skyfall. I love that she plays, and this is key to me in casting Bond girls. They play a very key role in the story. And Moneypenny really does in Skyfall because she's part of the theme of the nature of spying. Because both Silva and Bond and M are all dealing with the repercussions of being spies. M is having her past coming back to haunt her. Silva has been destroyed by it and is now taking revenge. And Bond was almost destroyed by it but is slowly bouncing back. So it's this really cool theme of spying, and then she plays into it because she wants to be a spy. She wants to be a 00, it seems. But then Bond shows her it's not all martinis and hot men in your case. So it's not all that. So maybe it's not for you if that's what you think it is. So I found that very interesting and well done.
That's a very good point.
I think that, again, Skyfall is a brilliant film because we very rarely get Bond films that have that kind of theme and one that's that well explored. Casino Royale had one as well, but I like Skyfall's a little better, in fact.
Yeah, I think just based on the screenplay of Skyfall, I think it's probably superior to most of the other Bond films if you look at them.
Yeah, for sure. So is there anything else you guys would like to specifically discuss about Bond in general or the future of Bond in this video before we end it?
Oh, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but if you guys can think of anything.
I don't know. I think I'm kind of done. I think I've kind of named off all the things I'd like.
Yeah, I think we've kind of covered where we would like Bond to go. I'll just kind of try and summarize it by saying this. Skyfall got mostly every aspect of it right. And I think that the key with future Bond films is you need to focus on strong characters with strong acting. I think that's where I don't know if you guys would agree. I think that's where Skyfall's foundation is, in the fact that it's got really strong characters with a really strong cast of actors portraying them. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of key with Bond films, just because of the way it's presented. And we obviously named off actors who like to reprise the role of 007 after Daniel Craig steps down, which I'm not looking forward to because he's been my Bond forever, so it's going to be weird for me. So it's going to be strange, but it's inevitably going to happen one day. So we've talked about that. We talked about plot-wise, we definitely like to see Blofeld come in, a reprisal of Quantum's plot line with hopefully a conclusion. And obviously we talked about just other stuff that fits in with that in smaller degrees. So I'd just like to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for coming out for this video. This was a lot of fun.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed it too.
No problem. I enjoyed myself quite a bit as well. I thank you for having us.
It's been awesome having you guys on the channel. So I think we're going to wrap up here. So thank you very much for watching. Of course, I've got more videos coming on the way. Nothing, at least specifically right now, except for the Godzilla Gang is still probably going to have a March release later in the month. But that's kind of all the updates I have right now for you guys. But thank you very much for listening. Oh, and obviously check out the Geeky Gentleman live show tomorrow. It's going to be a lot of fun. So thank you very much for listening. I'm Zazubaar.
I'm the real Manos.
And I'm Dan.
See you later.